From the Victory Studios in downtown Little Rock, this is Capitol View with your host, David Goins.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Capitol View. I'm Bob Clausen, in for David this morning. Thanks for being with us in the July 4th weekend. Certainly hope yours has been a safe and enjoyable one. We're going to be joined this half hour by probably the best pairing since Martin and Lewis, GOP strategist Bill Vickery, and from the Arkansas Times, Max Brantley. Plus, we're going to break down the much-hyped special session, what was accomplished, what was kicked down the road, and what some say is lacking from the measures that were passed. But we begin with the Arkansas governor's race. Capitol View's Drew Petromo sitting down with Republican nominee Asa Hutchinson this week to discuss big issues the state faces and, of course, big issues in the race. Here's their conversation.
Well, thank you, Bob, and I would like to thank Asa Hutchinson for joining us on Capitol View. Just want to delve right into the issues at hand. Of course, this week a big one for the state legislature, meeting and passing a couple important bills and to get started on jails. Obviously, that's been an issue on a lot of people's minds here with the overcrowding that county jails have seen. Speaking of what was passed, your take on what was done, more of a Band-Aid really than a long-term fix.
Well, it's important what they did. They came in, they had a consensus, they met, and they went home. And they addressed really some important issues, almost of crisis proportion in the sense of our jails and funding additional, I believe it's 600 prison beds to be opened up. That's certainly a short-term fix that we have to look at a larger context next year as to what more additional space that we need. Secondly, the teachers' insurance fund, once again, the teachers were looking at a significant increase in insurance premiums, and so they addressed that, and that was a crisis because our teachers work hard. We want to make sure that this is a solid fund that's protected, and so they made some changes in that puts it on more solid footing. The task force that made these recommendations is going to continue on for another year. There'll probably be more recommendations coming down the pike. Back to the jails. This seems, Act 570 was an act to try to relieve some of the overcrowding in state prisons. After the Darrell Dennis case, there seemed to be a flow back towards more stringent controls to prevent people from getting out. I wonder your ideology and what you would bring to the governor's office. Are you more along the side of Act 570, or do you think it's a keep people in prison, build more prisons to house the people? Well, I've outlined a very specific public safety policy, and it starts with acknowledging the fact that we have a crime problem, particularly here in Central Arkansas. We've had more homicides this year. We have bank robberies. Women and people are going to the grocery store worried about where they're parking. So we have to address that, and it starts with adequate prison space, particularly for our violent offenders. And so Act 570 tried to relieve prison overcrowding, and it accomplished that. It loosened the screws, but we didn't accompany that by adequate parole supervision. We loosened it too much in some places, and so we have to do some tweaking, some adjustments to it. It doesn't mean you throw the whole thing out, but we need to make some changes, and it starts with increased parole officers so that we're holding people accountable when they come out of prison. We're making sure they're not violating the law, and if they do, they've got to go back to prison. That's the starting point, and we don't have adequate space right now. Our county jails are backed up, and we've got to be able to relieve that. It comes, I would think, to a question of how do you pay for it? Obviously, making additional space, building prisons, very expensive. I mean, does the public need to commit more money to the criminal justice system in order to fix these type of problems? We will in the short term. I hope in the long term we change behavior, and that's the objective of holding people accountable, is that they learn that there's a consequence to wrongdoing and they change behavior. If not, you have to lock them up. But you asked me philosophically where I am on this. It's not just about more prison space. People who come out of prison, they want to do the right thing. They want to get a job. We need to help them to do that. I want to put money in effective reentry programs in terms of alternatives to incarceration for those with drug offenses, addiction problems. We need to expand our drug treatment courts, and that's been part of my policy as well. And so it has to be a balanced approach. We need to have adequate prison space. We need to have alternatives to incarceration for drug offenders. We also need to have accountable parole supervision, more parole officers, and we need to change Act 570. Switching over to teacher insurance, obviously this has been an ongoing issue. What was passed
seen as something of another Band-Aid. I wonder where you see your role as a potential governor in this issue, and what is the long-term solution that you would aim for to stop doing these, it seems, yearly fixes?
Well, and that's the important thing, is that you have a teacher's insurance fund that is comparable to the private sector, in the sense private sector insurance goes up, but it's not going up, 30, 40% a year, and it escalates. So we've got to make some long-term changes, and I think the role of the governor is to work with the legislature to get this done. It's not just a legislative responsibility, but you want to be able to manage it right. You want to be able to make some administrative changes within the employee benefits section. And then let's see what the legislative recommendations are from their task force, and that will be ongoing. I think we have to wait and see how the changes now impact the safety and the security of the fund, and then see what changes need to be made.
Ever have to be something, you hear a lot from teachers that they pay a disproportionately high amount of their premiums compared to counterparts in other states. Is there, a reckoning that needs to become? Is there need to be more public money dedicated to easing that burden on teachers, in your opinion?
It shouldn't. I mean, it's a balance between what the state responsibility is and the school districts and the teachers. And so they have very good quality gold standard plans, and we're proud to have that, but we need to make it comparable to the private sector, but adequately funded. They want to make sure that it's going to be a stable insurance fund that is reliable for them and their family, and that it's going to continue in the future without 25–30% increases. That's the objective of it. And I think we have to be creative. If the fixes the legislature made this time are not sufficient, then let's think outside the box and see what additionally needs to be done. Our teachers do a great job, and we need to listen to them. We need to have a priority on making sure that they're paid well, but also that they have a good insurance program for their health.
Thank you so much for joining us. That's all the time we have, but I really appreciate you joining us today on
Absolutely. Good to be with you.
I want to thank Drew Petchamo for that. Also want to thank Asa Hutchinson for his time. I want to let you know that in the coming weeks we'll have a conversation with Democratic nominee Mike Ross as well. Coming up after the break, the special session is over. We're going to run down the accomplishments along with what's left to tackle in the future. I'm Bob Clausen, and you're watching Capitol View on this Sunday morning.
Nature Valley Crunchy Granola Bars contain 1/3 of your daily whole grains. So 1/3 of this commercial is dedicated to what you could do with all that energy. One-third of your daily whole grains means energy to make some new ocean friends. Nature Valley Crunchy Granola Bars.
How's it going? Heard you need a ride to school.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Big day at school? I know just the thing to help get you going. Power up with new Cheerios protein.
We're getting new carpet from Empire today. It's Empire's big whole house sale. We bought 2 rooms and got carpet for the rest free when we paid for padding and installation.
Empire's whole house sale is on now. Buy 2 rooms, get carpet for the rest free when you pay for padding and installation. Choose from top brands like Mohawk and BoYu. Don't miss. Buy 2, get the rest free. Schedule now.
800-588-2300 Empire.
Today.
Bottom line, you're going to save money when you come to us. We sell everything from your basic red oak floors to really hard to find exotics like your bloodwoods, your Brazilian walnuts, or ebonies. We offer the Bellawood, which is a pre-finished solid. It's the best product we carry, arguably the best in the industry. Morningstar bamboo, which is all solid bamboo, very green product. If you like rustic, you have the Virginia Millworks, which is a complete line of hand scraped and distressed floors. And then you have the Dream Home line, which carries 50, 60 different styles of laminate floors as well. Yeah, a lot of people like to do it themselves, but for those who don't, we do have installation services. Very good people, their work is warranted. We also offer financing. It's a deferred interest, so it helps you spread out a larger purchase, which is a lot easier to work with. We like to have the samples right out in front, as well as samples that you can take home with you. Everything we sell is first quality, full warranty. You want to make sure you get the right color that's right for you. Call the number on your screen for a free catalog. You're going to get good service for a lower price.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
The first special session held at the old State House in over a century wrapped up just after the stroke of midnight Wednesday morning. Lawmakers moving forward on the first of what's expected to be a long list of reforms to keep the public school employee insurance plan staying afloat financially. It's been less than a year since the legislature was called back to Little Rock for a special session dealing with this very same topic. Last October, lawmakers approved spending $43 million to curb the costs. But the problem popping up again, forcing lawmakers to come up with another temporary solution.
Reforms that make the program solvent for a time, not reforms that fix the program permanently. I think we've been clear from the beginning. We were told in February that barring $37 million more, we were going to be having a 35% price increase in premiums.
But not everyone is pleased with what was passed. Legislators describe an urgent situation that requires tough but swift decisions to short-term benefits. Some public school employees believe that strategy could have real costs for part-time employees being excluded and families facing high deductibles.
It's not a new problem, but they keep saying, well, we'll throw a little money at it and let somebody else fix it. We'll throw a little money at it. And every time our costs have gone up.
And the House and Senate also passing bills to ease jail overcrowding the best they can, an issue county sheriffs have been pressuring lawmakers on for months. The House and Senate transferred $6 million to state funding to pay for hundreds of additional prison beds. The state enacted more strict parole and probation policies in 2013. Since then, prison populations have increased dramatically. The move comes the same week the Pulaski County Sheriff closed the jail to nonviolent offenders for the second time in just a few months. And the third issue on the agenda, putting a halt on video monitored lotto games, but not permanently. The compromise stops games until March 2015. The Lottery Commission had hoped to have machines installed by September. Today's move, or I should say the move this week, gives the commission and lawmakers more time to negotiate before the next general session. The new Keno-style games are projected to generate more than $12 million in sales, resulting in more than $3 million in scholarship funds. When we come back, the race for Senate gets somewhat nasty as talk of personal religious views enters the race in a very big way. We're going to get into that with our political long table. I'm Bob Clausen. You've got a Capitol View on this Sunday morning.
I've always seen No-No on TV, and I always wondered if it worked. And it's definitely, I can see what everybody talks about now.
It's not a razor. It's not a laser. It's No-No from Radiancy. No-No gives you no hair with no pain.
There's absolutely no pain.
Can't believe the difference, Al. It's almost hair-free.
And now, No-No is better than ever. Introducing the new No-No Pro. It's up to 35% more powerful. Imagine never having to shave again.
I like a close shave. Absolutely. And this is better than that. I mean, it's gone.
And there's a No-No for him, too.
It looks like just like you've got a fresh wax, but like you don't have to go through all the pain.
Comb now, and we'll send you everything you need to get rid of your unwanted hair. Try No-No for 60 days. If you don't love it, return it, and we'll refund the purchase price, refund the shipping, and even pay the return postage. Try No-No risk-free today.
Hello, I'm a kid, and us kids have an important message for our grown-ups. 3 grams daily of beta-glucan, a soluble fiber from whole grain oat foods like Cheerios, can help lower cholesterol. And where can you find beta-glucan? In oats. And they're yummy. I'm going back to being a kid now. Thank you.
Tuesday at 6 on KARK4 News. 7 years living in fear. A stranger sending threatening emails and text, tapping her phone and computer, watching her every move.
It is so unsettling to know that someone is listening and watching you.
The extreme measures she took to escape her stalker and how to keep it from happening to you. A Safety Matters special report. Tuesday at 6 on KARK4 News.
It doesn't seem like 20 years. I mean, it seems like I walked in the door yesterday.
Bob Clausen has more on an investigation.
The definition has not changed. So much has happened at KARK, so much has happened in Little Rock, and so much has happened in Arkansas in those 20 years. You look back at it and you're kind of stunned. You're like, wow, I was part of so much that's happened here.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View, everyone. I'm Bob Clausen in for David Goins. About 10 years ago, ramping up to our election coverage in 2004, I had an idea for a political super collider, if you will. Let's bring together the best of the right, the best of the left, put them down, and let them go at it. The result? Bill Vickery, Max Brandt. You guys,
Boy.
this was 10 years ago. Remember that?
I got to tell you, I don't know if this is the best.
I can't remember.
I remember telling my boss, because I knew you from radio. Of course, Max, everyone knows you from the Times. And I said, let's get these guys together and see what happens. Here we are, 10 years later.
It only took 10 years, Max.
Still crazy after all
and I
these years.
I want to thank both you guys for coming in all the time and talking to us. It's been a lot of fun, continues to be. Let's talk about something that happened this week in the world of politics. Tom Cotton making mention, and I think he was addressing something that came out of the Hobby Lobby decision. Mr. Pryor, his opponent, came up. Let's go ahead and listen to what he had to say.
Example of how Obamacare infringes on the liberties of all Arkansans. Barack Obama and Mark Pryor think that faith is something that only happens at 11 o'clock on Sunday mornings. That's when we worship, but faith is what we live every single day. And the government shouldn't infringe on the rights of religious liberty. So I'm pleased with the Supreme Court's ruling, but it's just another example of why Obamacare is bad for Arkansas.
Okay. Essentially saying inside all of that, Senator Pryor worships on Sunday, 11 o'clock, and that's about it. Is this going to advance the ball for Mr. Cotton, or is this going to come back and...
I think it was a 10-year comment, and I think we could talk a long time about what the Hobby Lobby ruling was really about. It wasn't about abortion. It was about a corporation's religious freedom, not an individual's religious freedom. And I think one side is trying to paint it as a religious freedom issue. I think there's a lot of room to paint it as a decision against something which is very popular in America, which is women receiving birth control pills. But that said, I think it is a mistake to directly attack somebody else's religion, which it's impossible. Cotton has issued a statement since then saying, oh, I respect his faith. Well, he didn't sound like he did, and I think everybody's faith is a very different, very private sort of thing, and it's just best left alone in a political campaign.
And sometimes when it's out of the tube, you can't get it back in.
I do think it is an indication of how intense this race has gotten to, that we've gone to a holy war in advance of July 4th even. But I think the point that Congressman Cotton was trying to make here is to sort of illustrate Mark Pryor, who has had a long history of being a religious Christian Democrat here in Arkansas, even how supporting this president administration can turn you away from what has maybe been traditionally your values. And so I think that's the point that Cotton was trying to nuance. But it's awfully tough when we start to criticize one another's religion. I think that's when it maybe goes off the rails
I think
a little bit.
if Mark Pryor said he liked Belgium better than Netherlands in the World Cup, Tom Cotton would say it was about Obamacare.
Very much so. And indirectly, it would be. We know.
Can't forget the ad that Mr. Pryor had when he was holding up the Bible.
Holding up the Bible, yeah.
Compass.
Of all the people to hit on religion, this is somebody who's come under criticism from people in his own party for being an organizer of some religious prayer breakfasts and this sort of thing.
And here's the ad. We can listen to it real quick.
Only God does. And neither political party is always right. This is my compass, my North Star. It gives me comfort and guidance to do what's best for Arkansas. I'm Mark Pryor, and I approve this message because this is who I am and what I believe.
Pretty tough shield to put a chink in. Right
Given Mark Pryor an opening to pick the Bible up, that has to be a political miscue.
Well, but that ad, if you remember in context, that ad ran during Christmas at the same time that we saw Tom Cotton's mom introducing us to him, and so I think it was a way of kind of trying to define the two guys in their own terms.
This is the thing I thought about. This race, I think, somebody said to me this week, David Ramsey, to credit him, he sees it as three issues in this race. One is Obama against Mark Pryor. One is Medicare and Tom Cotton's other votes for pretty radical budget proposals that can be viewed as harmful to elderly and other people in Arkansas. But the third one is personality, is the person. And I think the sales job on who is more like us and who is less like us may end up being a really big thing, and getting into these sorts of personal issues is a minefield.
I would only agree with that in this sense. The first issue is the president, is Obama. The 735th issue might be some negatives about Tom Cotton, and the 455 millionth issue would be some sort of personality issue. But the gulf between the last two and Obama is massive. He's the anvil.
We're going to take a look at the statement from Mr. Pryor regarding Mr. Cotton's statement that he made, saying, I'm disappointed in Congressman Cotton's deeply personal attack on me. He said, I may disagree on issues, but for him, to question my faith is out of bounds. From a young age, I have never shed away from talking about the importance of God in my life, and it's my Christian faith that gives me the comfort and guidance to be a steady voice for Arkansas in the Senate. Now, with this said, now this back and forth, does this open up the way for, hey, okay, now we can go dirty?
Oh, I think
any dirtier.
I think that was I don't think by the time this campaign is over with, the stakes are so high and the intensity is already there in advance of July the 4th, and the money that's involved. I think it's going to be the most intensely personal campaign in Arkansas.
Well, you know, all of dirt is sometimes merely issues. I think the bulk of Mark Pryor's advertising against Tom Cotton have been lately. It's been about votes on disaster relief. The vote on Medicare is the current ad that's up right now. The minimum wage thing, if they can get it on the ballot, and that I learned today may be an iffy proposition, is going to be inextricably tied with Democratic candidates. These are legitimate issues, and call it negative, call it positive, but they're fair to talk about.
I do happen to agree with Max on that. I like contrast advertising. I think a lot of folks get into it. I think that this campaign truly has been about these issues, and I think the Cotton folks have successfully painted Senator Pryor as an ally of the president. The president is an anvil around the necks of every Democrat in the state. He's the bubonic plague on the Democratic Party here, the locusts and the frogs.
If it were a sure thing, though, the race would be over today, and it's not.
Well, but we're also in advance of July 4th. We haven't even had the All-Star break yet.
Blanche Lincoln was dead by now.
Well, she was dead 2 years earlier, though. But I mean, that's like, you know, so Pryor is not as bad as Blanche Lincoln. We ran possibly the worst campaign in Arkansas.
Whatever you got, you know.
We're going to take a real quick break. We're going to have more with Max and Bill when we come back, including their thoughts on the special session that wrapped up this week. I'm Bob Clausen. You're watching Capitol View on this Sunday morning.
When giving it all up for love, try not to kiss off your old boss.
You know the IRS has been after my ass?
I quit. I've told you that several times already.
You don't quit on Gene Simmons, okay? Nobody quits on Gene Simmons.
Welcome to Sweden premieres Thursday, 9, 8 Central on NBC. Good news. The great Andrea Martin is not dead.
These things aren't made to open from the inside.
This summer, see her at her finest. In Working the Angles, a new comedy premiering this Thursday on NBC.
You want to attend college so you can pursue your goals, but you may not be able to afford it. At ITT Tech, we're doing something to put a degree financially within your reach. The new ITT Tech Opportunity Scholarship is now available to eligible students who qualify. We believe education is a sound investment. Make a choice that can make a difference. To find out more about the ITT Tech Opportunity Scholarship, call 1-800-ITT-TECH or visit us on the web. ITT Technical Institute. Education for the future.
Oh, hey there! Oh, you're that grumpy cat. I know. How about some Honey Nut Cheerios? Humans love them. Moms, dads, kids, all of them. Not even a smile? Huh. Maybe somebody should tell your face. Well, oh, that is your face. Oh, part of a good breakfast for almost everyone.
You know, they say that news is the first rough draft of history. Well, for the past 60 years, KARK4 has helped write that history.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for joining us this evening.
I'm Roy Mitchell.
I'm Carolyn Long.
Disaster strikes a shuttle launch.
My God.
No state in the Union is going faster than the state of Arkansas.
President Kennedy died at approximately 1 o'clock Central Standard Time.
No matter what abuses it may bring, I'm going to tell the truth.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
KARK4 News, capturing the images and telling the stories that have shaped this great state for 60 years.
Thank you for inviting us into your homes.
From the very beginning.
You're watching Capitol View, Sunday morning talk focused on the political scene in Arkansas.
Welcome back to Capitol View, everyone. If you thought the fireworks were over, you're wrong. Keep it right there. Max Brantley, Bill Vickery, we're talking politics this morning. Let's talk about the special session. How special was it? Was the session long enough? Was it too short? Did we accomplish anything? Did we accomplish enough?
Well, I think if you're a school teacher in Arkansas, it was critically important, and the fact that our jails have been closed due to overcrowding, the prison is where it is, I think it was critically important. I happen to like the way this governor and this legislature do special sessions. They build a consensus around things first, then they call everyone down here and sort of vote it through in a minimum amount of time, so you really get things done quickly.
Wrong. In years past, it seemed to be, okay, let's get up there, let's figure out what we're going to do. Yeah. You know, then after, like week 2 or 3, you're like, what's going on?
Well, seriously, I joke a little bit, and some of these things are probably best accomplished quickly, but the public is left out of it. I mean, for the most part, we have these agreed on deals that are reached, some in back rooms, some not, some out of reach of people, and then they're presented and they're done. And there were some elements of the teacher into the school employee insurance plan that really weren't known to people affected until the eve of the legislative session. I think some public employees were surprised to find out that the deal includes the end of coverage of spouses on the public employee insurance plan if they're employed somewhere else that has health insurance. That is a big deal.
Did this reach far enough?
No. No, and I don't even think the legislators who back these things agreed that any of these, either prisons or the insurance is solved. Prisons got a set amount of money that will open X amount of beds, and that's a real help in a very quantifiable way. We don't really yet know for sure what the insurance change is going to do except save money. It'll hold the rate increases down on premiums, but deductibles are going up, co-pays are going up. Some new types of policies have these enormous medical limits, $13,000, I think one of them said in one case. We don't yet know if this really will bring people back into the system. The worst single thing that happened at the session this week, was the incredible hypocrisy of Jim Hendren, the sponsor of the insurance workout bill. When they threw 4,000 part-time workers off the school employee insurance plan, he said, oh, not to worry, they can sign up for Obamacare, or the private option version of it. Jim Hendren promises with his last breath to defeat the private option in the Arkansas legislature. And what is going to happen if he's successful?
Bill's fuse is lit.
Yeah, I don't know that necessarily it is a sort of de facto way to, within a couple of years, kick some folks off of health insurance. I happen to think that the numbers for the private option are going to show a lot of success with it, and will have some good support during the legislative session. I think there's an underlying tone to this whole thing, too, and as a Republican, I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but we may very well be nearing a time when, while I appreciate the history of our legislative service, most southern legislatures have kind of a citizen legislature where they go home and go back to work and come back. We may need more regular engagements of our legislature as the calendar moves along. And I know, Max, that just...
Speaking of hypocrisy, the Republicans hated long-term service until they were in the majority, and suddenly they see the benefits of longer service now.
There are a lot of these issues are becoming, I think we're going to see this more and more now. Even
I'm still an opponent of term limits, although I'm now beginning to see their genius a little bit.
There you go. After 10 years,
finally together.
Uniter.
Yes.
Gentlemen, thanks very much.
Sure.
Thanks for stopping by, especially this 4th of July weekend. Happy Independence Day to both you gentlemen. Hey, real quick, as I'm sure you're aware, David is not in this seat, hasn't been last week, is not this week, perhaps won't be next week, and for good reason. Want to introduce you to Walter Boyd Goins, born Saturday, June 26th. So our very best going out to David and his wife, Amy, a cute youngster right there. And you got to think the name, Walter. That young fella have a future in the news business? Uncle Walter?
Yeah. Could be. He looks a lot like David there too, actually. You can see
sound asleep on a Sunday morning.
Sound asleep, right.
Exactly. Gentlemen, thanks very much. That's it for today's show. And don't forget, you can always stay up to date with all Arkansas politics by following us on Twitter at Capitol View AR, and download the Capitol View smartphone app in the iTunes App Store and Google Play. We will see you back here next week. Have a great week, everyone. Happy 4th of July.